All right, all right. So we have new faces here today, and super excited to have you girls. Today is our community group call. We do this every other Monday. Normally we have more people, but I guess a lot of people are traveling or couldn't make it. I'm not sure what's happening there. But in any case, for those of you that are gonna watch this later, I hope you are having a fantastic summer. And I would love to hear from you after you watch the call. What is the word that you are going to keep for yourself as far as setting the intention for the month of July? We are halfway through the year, girls. Halfway through the year. Just stop and think about that, okay? But here's the thing. You are one of those, okay, that it chose to take control over your health, right? You are one of those that decided to go against what the crowd is doing, which is, oh, I don't want to start a program, or I don't want to take care of my health right now, or my goals, because, it's summer, I got to travel, I got to do this, I got to do that. But you are here. So you already are, ahead of the game, from 90% of the population, right? Remember that most people make those New Year's resolution by February, they already fall off the wagon. Then they try to catch up for the summer, just so the summer starts, and then they gain all back, right? And then they're like, oh my gosh, I need to lose a little bit. But then New Year's, Christmas, the holiday starts to happen, and then that cycle never ends. But you are breaking the cycle. So we are super, super excited for you. We have a great topic today that Coach Lindsay, took some time to really dive deep into the science behind. And I messaged her, and she's like, no, I really studied this. I really want to share all this stuff that I got from them, like to really show how this works. So I just want to acknowledge one person on this call. There is so many people that I could acknowledge here, right? I know all of you ladies are doing fantastic, but I want to acknowledge Gaynell on this call. This girl has been with us, I don't know, for 4 or 5 months, Gaynell, yeah, and 4 months, and she lost 20 pounds, a while traveling, a while enjoying herself without restrictions, okay? And when I brought your case to the functional team on last Wednesday, that's the first thing they said. You gotta, if you can acknowledge that you lost 20 pounds, okay, then you are, you're never going to be able to be happy until you get to the finish line, which is going to take time, right? But if you stop and think that you lost 20 pounds in 4 months without restriction, enjoying yourself, that's a big deal. And they really said, let that sink in and celebrate that, right? And be proud of you for that. And then keep going and moving forward. Okay? So I want to acknowledge you for that. All right. So with that being said, we are going to, and eating more foods, exactly. Eating more foods. So with that being said, we are going to pass along for Coach Lindsay. Then, I'll be, jumping in and sharing as much as I can. And then we're going to give you ladies the opportunity to ask any questions that you have at the end. So take some notes because we have some good stuff here today. You ready? Let's go, Coach Lindsay.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, that's awesome, Gaynell. I love it. I love it. Congrats, girl. Also, I just wanted to, all our fellow Canadians, just wish you a happy Canada Day, because it is Canada Day here. I'm Canadian, so is Amanda. I know Amanda is too. So happy Canada Day. 4th of July is coming up for you all, so that's exciting. So happy 4th of July, early 4th of July for you. All right, we're going to dive into this topic because I love this topic because it gets me excited, because I know it's going to help you. It's going to benefit you. And we all have experienced cravings. We all have had these sugar addictions at some point in our lives. But I want to pose a question out to you guys and just ask you, why do you think you get cravings? Just put it in the chat why you think you get cravings. I want to hear what you think. Bad eating. Anybody else? Quick fix. Habit. Anybody else? Wait too long to eat. Good one. Emotions. Stress. Love it. Dopamine, bad habits, boredom. Absolutely. Yeah, love it. We're going to talk a lot about that today. Okay, not eating every 3 hours. Yes, Danielle, I love that. We're going to talk a lot about all of that. Coach Holly, she's going to jump in. She's going to help me sugar craving when I'm stressed or tired. Yes, Priya, also very good. Coach Holly is going to talk about the addiction side later on and emotions and how that affects our cravings as well. Salt craving when I'm dehydrated. Yeah, yes, very interesting. So I really do love this topic because we have been doing a lot of research, and some of you may have known this or not, but we're taking our certification with MMU, and that's Metabolic Mentor University. And if you hear Coach Patricia talk about the functional team, they are a part of this university. And what they teach is nutrition. And a lot of what they teach about nutrition, one of the aspects is glucose. Okay. There's also a scientist, and her name is Jessie Chauffry, and she's French. She has been studying glucose for a very long time, and she's even written a book called The Glucose Revolution. Okay. Glucose is amazing for our bodies, but when it's not managed properly, it can lead to a whole bunch of things that we're not happy with. Okay. But first off, I want to talk about what glucose is. Okay. So glucose is our blood sugar, right? It's when we eat like carbs and sugar, right? That's what gives our body energy. And we need energy to survive. We need energy to breathe. We need energy to pump blood in our body. We need energy to do those workouts, all that fun stuff. Okay. Where do we get our glucose from? We get our glucose from starches and sugars, right? So that would be like your oatmeal, your rice, your pastas, your sweet potatoes, your fruits, okay, squashes. But where we also get sugar from and is the processed foods, right? So cakes, breads, muffins, even candies, right? Those are the unhealthy glucose coming into our body. And when we eat these, there's so much glucose coming in, it creates a glucose spike. Okay. And when we have a glucose spike, we also end up with crashes. And that's when we start to get cravings. We start to feel feelings of fatigue. We have brain fog. Eventually, it will lead to inflammation in the body, diabetes, and that sort of thing. Okay. Like I said, glucose isn't bad when it's managed properly, but when we have these constant spikes and crashes, then that's when we start to crave more, right? So interesting enough, there's a little cell in our body. It's a powerhouse cell. It's called the mitochondria, okay? This little guy, he takes that glucose and turns it into energy. But has anybody ever been overwhelmed before? The feeling of overwhelmed. Yes, I think most of us have, right? And what happens when you get overwhelmed? For me, I shut right down. I'm like, okay, that's it. I can't think anymore. I've had enough. You kind of just stop, right? This mitochondria has the same problem when we eat too much glucose. When we feed it too much, it feels overwhelmed and it shuts right down. It doesn't do anything. Okay. And that's when you have that crash. That's when you start to feel fatigue. Okay. So think of it like how many are plant lovers? Anybody a plant lover here? Yeah, okay, good. So then you know that if you water your plant too much, it's going to drown, right? The same thing happens with the mitochondria. It just feels overwhelmed. It kind of drowns, basically, okay? So our bodies know that glucose spike is not good for us, okay? So what it does is it calls on the pancreas for help. Okay, so it says, hey, pancreas, can you help us with all this glucose? So the pancreas releases the Kraken. No, I was just kidding. It releases a hormone called the insulin. Okay. Insulin takes that glucose and sends it to our muscles, or it stores it away in our liver, or it stores it in our fat cells for later use for energy. Okay. When there's too much insulin, okay, over time, that's where we start to gain weight, we start to gain fat on the body. We can run into type 2 diabetes, there's hormonal issues, there's brain fogs, there's chronic fatigue, okay? And this usually also kind of pairs along with insulin resistance, okay? So insulin resistance is when cells in our muscles, the things I just talked about, the muscles, the fat cells, the livers, doesn't respond well to the insulin, okay? And it can't easily take up the glucose that it's trying to give. So what does the pancreas do? It actually sends more insulin, says, here, really, really try. But it doesn't do anything. And then that's when we get into insulin resistance and more weight gain, and we can't lose that weight. Okay. So now, if that doesn't scare you enough, guess what glucose spikes can also do to our bodies? It ages us. The more we go through glucose spikes, the faster we age. So there's a process called glycate. Okay, so let's say you're cooking a chicken, right? It's raw in the beginning, but over time it glycates. And when it's done cooking, it's finished glycating. It's fully browned. So glucose spikes actually does that to our body. And that's when we start to get wrinkles, our skin ages, our organs slowly age, okay? So keep that in mind too. When you constantly go through these crashes or spikes and crashes, you're also aging your body, okay? So how do we fix this, right? This is where we need to learn to balance glucose and prevent these spikes and have less cravings, okay? So if you are in the program, you already know some of these hacks. And sometimes it just takes a little reminder. But the number one hack is the magic plate formula. Those are your macronutrients. We need to eat carbs, protein, and healthy fats, okay? But it's about how we eat them and when we eat them, okay? So you also know that you need to eat every 3 to 4 hours, 4 to 5 meals per day to help balance that blood sugar level, okay? What you also need to be doing is having balanced meals. And I'll, myself, Coach Holly, Coach Patricia, will go over your food diary. And sometimes we see that we're not eating those balanced meals because when you put in your check-in review, I feel fatigued or I'm having cravings, we'll definitely look at your food diary, okay? And a lot of the times I've seen, you know, at dinner time, all of a sudden there'll be like 60 grams of carbs, but then at snack, you're only having 10 grams of carbs. And then lunch, you're having 20, and then breakfast is 50. Like carbs are all over the map, right? So when this happens, you're setting yourself up for a spike and then a crash, okay? When you have your macros goal, and what you, if you've been in the program, you should already know this, is that you need to balance out your meals. So you'll have a specific amount of carbs that you're going to eat per day. Same with the protein and same with the fat. So for me, I have 165 grams of carbs right now per day. And I divide that by 5 because I eat 5 meals per day. So I end up having 33 grams of carbs per meal. This includes my breakfast, my snacks, my lunch, my dinner. Okay. I'll leave a little bit of wiggle room for that last meal, but it's not going to be crazy. Okay. So having these balanced meals is what's also going to balance your blood sugar level. Okay. Now this scientist that I was introducing you to, Jessie Champry, bad with last names, she has suggested that for breakfast, instead of having something sugary, like even some like fruit or like maple syrup or honey, avoid that. She's saying have a savory breakfast. Okay. You can still have the starches like the oatmeal, and you can even have some like squashes or things like that. But try and stay away from like fruits, right? Because if you have the high amount of sugar in the morning, you're actually going to set yourself up for a spike later on and then a crash. Okay. So she says, try and like think of like lunch for breakfast, right? So it's something to try just to see if that's going to help balance your blood sugar levels. So that would be like having more eggs, more spinach, having some greens at breakfast time, right? Maybe a little bit of oatmeal on the side, adding in some healthy fats like chia seeds, things like that. Okay. Now we're not saying that you can't have sugar at all. Okay. Like, and this is why we give you macros, because it's sustainable. Yes, you can have that piece of, chocolate cake, but the best time to have it is after a meal, right? So after lunch or after dinner, because by the time you have it, the sugar, right, has the glucose coming in from that sugar will be lessened, right? Because all that the nutrients from your meal is going to support it better. Okay. I'm just reading some of my notes here. So it's going to like prevent that spike, okay, as if you have it towards the end. Now, what she has found and what they have researched is that there is actually a formula on how to eat your meal. And this will prevent you from also having sugar cravings. Okay, so there's an order of process here that's going to benefit your body. So they say, so let's say you know that you have to have, your carbs, your protein, your healthy fat, and we always say add in that fiber, right? So what is fiber? Lots of green vegetables, right? And they always say, have your vegetables first because it's full of fiber. And by the time the fiber gets to the upper intestines, it starts to coat it. So it creates a little bit of a mesh in your tissue that actually prevents the glucose from spiking, right? So fiber first, then your protein, and then your healthy fats. And then the last thing that goes in is those carbs. Okay. So this reduces the spike by up to 75%, which is fascinating for me. So even like I've noticed that when I have a bowl of pasta for dinner, right after I'm headed to that pantry for those chocolate chips, right? And that's because the glucose that I've eaten has just spiked. And by the time I'm done, I'm like crashing. And this is where the addiction part gets in, right? My brain's like, oh my gosh, we need this energy now. That's where I grab the glucose of the chocolate chips because they're sugary. It's a quick fix. It's going to help boost that spike up again, only to do another round of a crash, right? And you'll find too, like when you go to restaurants, some restaurants serve bread in the beginning, right before, or like tortillas or whatever, right? but don't have the bread before, because by the time you're done your dinner, you're going to want dessert, right? Because you've crashed from that spike of the bread. Now you're going to want dessert to help gain that energy back up. Okay. So really fascinating there. Hack number 7. Guess what? Exercise. Yes. Okay. So if you find that you have a really big meal, especially with lots of carbs, exercise right after, because and we always say this too, like, especially when you're in the reverse part, right? And we're trying to build that muscle. We always say, try and aim for this amount of carbs, which is usually a bit bigger than normal, right? Because all that glucose is going to go to that muscle to help build that muscle and give you energy to do the workout. When you do that, actually, it prevents the glucose spike. Okay. So always, if you are going to carb load, make sure you are working out right after that carb load so it can balance that blood sugar level. Okay. Now this is interesting too. So hack number 8, vinegar. Okay. Vinegar contains citric acid. Okay. And it actually is meant to slow digestion down. Okay. So it slows the digestion down. It also slows the glucose arrives more slowly to our bloodstream when this happens. So if you know that you're going to go out for dinner or you're going to have a big meal with lots of carbs, they say, like, and this is what I do in the morning, is I have a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar and I'll drink it with a cup of water. You want to dilute that vinegar, because if you're just drinking like pure vinegar, it's actually bad for your teeth. You're going to dilute it, and then wait 5 to 10 minutes and then have that meal, because it actually slows the glucose coming in to your bloodstream. And then it prevents you from having those cravings later on. Okay. Another hack number 9, and we also say this too, usually when you're being onboarded, is try to, if you're going to have something starchy or sugar like fruit and that sort of thing, pair it with a healthy fat. Okay, because what that does, if you eat a piece of fruit on its own, the glucose is going to be a little bit higher, right? But when you pair it with a healthy fat, it balances that blood sugar level out. Okay. Same when it comes, so if you have bread, have avocado with the bread. If you have fruit, have some nut butter or some nuts on the side, okay? Because it's going to help balance that blood sugar level coming in as well. Okay. Now, if you have ever been tired, okay, glucose and sleep go hand in hand. Okay. When the body is tired, that's when it needs the glucose the most. So the glucose actually creates a bigger spike, unfortunately, when we are exhausted. So you really want to make sure that you are getting that, 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. So really setting yourself up for a proper nighttime routine. Getting in that sleep so that you're not going to be more prone to these blood sugar spikes. Okay. So when we have more of these blood sugar spikes, obviously we're going to have more crashes, which actually leads to feelings of more fatigue. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. So get that sleep. Okay, huge and important part of your overall health, actually. What they've also researched too is that when it comes to the glucose spikes and crashes, it really does affect our mental health. So a group of researchers took a group of people and they did a study on them. And the days that there was more glucose spiking and crashing, there was more mental health issues going on. There were people getting more moody, more irritated. There was feelings of depression. But when they're balanced, there was less of that. People were finding that they were more happier. There's more joy, there's more peace, right? Because the cells in our brain actually use glucose for energy as well. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Glucose is amazing, but when it's properly managed, it does wonders for our body. But when it's improperly managed, again, same thing. That's where we run into inflammation, diabetes, fatigue, weight gain, okay, aging. Apparently we age now. So really, I want you to feel like going forward, I really want you to have that body awareness. And when you notice when you are having these cravings, okay? I want you to think about, what did I just eat? How did I eat it? Did I, skip a meal? Did I eat on time? What was the process? Did I eat my carbs first or did I eat my carbs last? Have that body awareness as you're going forward, right? When you notice like fatigue set in or you're having cravings, that sort of thing. Because the more you're aware, the more likely you're able to change it up, right? And a lot of these are just habits, right? I mean, go for a week with eating fiber first at every meal, right? And then having your carbs at the end. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're eating those green vegetables. You want to make sure you're having the chicken and the healthy fat. And maybe your healthy fat is on top of your vegetables, which is okay. But at least that will create a little mesh basket, as you say, for the carbs to slowly release the glucose into our bloodstream. Right? So body awareness and implementing these new habits. And unfortunately, the food industry knows about this, right? Hence all those processed foods that we eat, because they know about these spikes and crashes, and it creates these cravings. Because when we have the processed foods, what happens? It creates these addictions. We want more. And Coach Holly is going to talk about that right away. So I'm going to pass that off. But we want to educate you when it comes to nutrition, because obviously going forward, this is what's going to be sustainable, right? All those fad diets, you try them and then you gain all the way back. I mean, we've all been there, right? But it's about learning about food, the science about food and how it's going to help our bodies, as opposed to going against the grain type kind of thing and trying something this and that and this magic pill and over here. And, just really being mindful about nutrition and eating properly, that's going to be sustainable long term. Okay. On that note, I'm going to pass it off to Coach Holly. She's going to talk about the addiction side of it, our emotions and all that jazz, and then we'll open it up for questions and
Do you
Coach.
mind to just drop something really quick here? I would love to, because these girls, there's a fantastic information here, right? And I think at the end of the day, it's good to hear, and it's like, oh, this is cool. This sounds interesting, right? But I would like to see you picking one of the things that Coach Lindsay said, a couple of things that she said, about this today, and just really make a decision to implement and test it out, right? As we go towards this next couple of weeks. So you can see how your cravings are going to minimize, right? Because if you don't put it in practice, this is just going to be, over your head, and then like, oh, sounds good. And then tomorrow you're like back to, doing the same thing you have been doing, right? When I teach the macros coaching call, remember that I always say, let's break it up the macros in 4 to 5 meals, because that ensures that you are not overloading on carbs, right? But I know that sometimes we get busy, and at the end of the day, you are like, oh crap, I didn't pre-log, and then I have like all these carbs left, and now you were loading on carbs. There's how can I say, a research that like how can I say, with MMU they were showing that just because, let's say, blueberries, okay, blueberries is low in a glycemic index, right? But if and then that bananas, for example, have more sugar, right? So blueberries have less and bananas have more. right? But if I'm gonna have 3 cups of blueberries, okay, because because I need to hit my macros, for example, 3 cups of blueberries and 1 banana, okay, which one do you think is going to affect more your glucose when you eat? Anybody? Any guess? The banana or the 3 cups of blueberries? The 3 cups of blueberries, actually. Okay. Because the overload amount, okay, of that food, okay, because we're talking about if we're talking about 1 cup of blueberry to a banana, yes, it's gonna be way less because blueberry has less. But they call, the overload of the amount of food that you are having all at once. Even if it's in a low glycemic index, when you compare that amount of 3 cups of blueberries compared to the banana is going to spike your blood sugar more than the banana would because of the amount that you had. Does that make sense? So just keep that in mind, especially for those of you. Here's the catch on this one. I'm gonna let Coach Holly come in. If your waist line is not moving, that's a big sign there for you. Okay. And I would recommend you really take this serious, especially in perimenopause, because cortisol is going to spike that blood sugar. Okay. It's going to create insulin resistance. So just by being on perimenopause alone, we already are dealing with that. I know that even though my A1C is great, I have glucose spikes. I just haven't really consistent in tracking my glucose, but I know for a fact it is because my waist just don't move. And I'm really going towards doing some things I'm going to share when I have the results. But boy, I'm telling you right now, if your waist is stuck, there's some insulin resistance happening there. You want to use these hacks that Coach Lindsay is sharing. Okay, this is functional nutrition. All right, Coach Holly, go ahead, girl.
Okay, I just kind of wanted to talk about dopamine in our brain because this is really how we become addicted to these foods and things. So when you consume something pleasurable like sugary snacks, our brain releases dopamine. And this creates like a feeling of pleasure and satisfaction. But over time, our brain learns to associate certain stimuli like the sight or smell of foods that you really enjoy, that makes you feel pleasurable, and this creates a learned association, and it makes you more likely to seek this out in the future. Like I was telling Coach Lindsay, like my big thing is like the minute I walk into a movie theater and I smell the freaking popcorn, of course I want the popcorn and I want the butter and I have to have chocolate with it because the sugar and the it's like I almost sometimes don't go to the movie theater because I don't want to blow my macros on buttery popcorn. You know what I mean? Like that's what sometimes I just have to do. So then when you're exposed to these cues associated with past pleasurable experiences, our brain kind of anticipates the dopamine release and then it creates that craving. This craving is your brain's way of motivating you to repeat the behavior, which is crazy. Our brain is tricking us to do bad things. So repeatedly satisfying cravings reinforces the behavior, and then now it's making it a habit. So each time you give into a craving, the brain rewards your system. It strengthens the behavior and it makes you likely to seek it out more and more. And then your brain's going to want to crave it more and more and more because it's not enough. Okay. So now we have to figure out ways to break this cycle. And you kind of just have to sit back. I think I said this last time in our call, like you literally have to talk to yourself. Like, why am I overeating? you have to kind of figure out solutions rather than just mask what you're doing. You know, you have to try and deal with it instead. I mean, so it could be nostalgic, like, you know, the movie theater thing, or just family traditions and stuff like that. Oh, you have to have this because it's tradition. You know what I mean? You're having a bad day at work, you're going through a breakup, stress, like all those things. If those are triggers to you overeating, then we need to figure out different ways to fix it, better habits, basically, to fix that. So, you know, if you know certain foods trigger you to cravings to eat something else, then you need to just not have that in your house. You know what I mean? Keeping your environment safe in general. So that's just being mindful eating and just being aware of, you know, what you're eating. Why are you eating it? Just, you can be eating it and being like, why are you eating this? Like, are you hungry? Are you just eating to cope? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Um, so instead of like going to eat bad food or junk food when you're stressed out, going through a breakup, like maybe, I don't know, sometimes I'll like do my laundry. I'll just start cleaning. You know what I mean? Just change what you do. Going for a walk, really just getting, and it doesn't have to be speed walking, just breathing and walking, breathing in the fresh air, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Just stuff that's going to distract you from going to doing that. But it's just a matter of changing your habits, your bad habits to good ones. You know what I mean? Does anybody have anything else? Let me move it. Willpower. What is it? Oh, who's iPhone 87? It's not about willpower, but getting the temptation out of your house, your area, then you'll succeed. Exactly. See, your son just made chocolate chip cookies, yeah.
That's
You
a
know,
tough one.
oh,
That is a tough one because now you not only you have that smell, you have that love. My son made this. Now you're gonna mix with your emotions, mommy guilt, the whole crap, right? Goes into that.
Mhm.
oh,
It's
Alexandra.
not, yeah, it doesn't require just willpower. There's a whole system in place.
I'm
Once you
strong on this one.
understand, I'm strong. Yeah. Once you understand like how glucose affects your body, but also how it affects addictions in your brain, knowing your triggers, your emotions, like Coach Holly talked about, like stress, right? Tired, fatigue, all those can cause cravings, right? And set us up for failure. So it's about putting a whole system in place to optimize on your health to get over these cravings, right? It's not just one area, it's multiple areas, and they go all hand in hand. And it's based off of science, right?
Yeah, and I love that part, about it's not about willpower because, for you to be in the place, I in a place that you can actually say no, like Yaya, it's saying no right now, you know. You are saying no right now. I want to see because you had dinner and you feeling good and satisfied, but I want to know tomorrow if he has any leftovers. See what I'm saying? So please send me a message because I want to see tomorrow after when you're hungry, when you're tired, when you're cranky, when you were thirsty and you think you're hungry and you need more energy and the flipping cookie is looking at your face, right? Once again, take the temptation out of your way. I cannot begin to tell you that this last couple of weeks has been I was like, holy cow, what the hell is going on with me? Because it has been birthdays and this and that, and my favorite bundt cake, and and I say I'm not gonna have, and because I know, that how many of you can relate to that? You like, I look pretty good, that's not gonna hurt. I can just, I already ate few pieces and did nothing, right? Because we were looking at just on the outside, right? Instead of thinking about all the other things that is creating on the inside that is really not as healthy. And once again, we're not saying you can't have it, but there's a difference between you having, you know, on the weekend, a piece of cake, right? A different, you know what I mean? And be consistently doing those things. That's the issue when it comes to, you know, glucose and diabetes and all of that. You know, studies shows that you will not even be able to see if you are pre-diabetic. It's not going to show on your blood test 4 years. 4 years. It's going to take 4 years, okay, to actually show on your blood test. It's crazy. Okay. So don't, it's like they call it, the diabetes is the silent killer, right? It just is just so hidden that we have no idea that it is, right? So once again, the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the time, let's be conscious about balancing our nutrition, doing all those things that we're supposed to do. You know, I love that little of the desert that I drink every morning because that, you know, apple cider vinegar really messes up my stomach when I take straight up, and just like, you know, the acid just hurts me. So I don't know, you know, if that's not something that supports you, like, you know, have the lily of the desert that I, you know, I share on Amazon. Um, you know, I just have a little shot first thing in the morning. I am back on drinking at least half a cup of what is it called? Of the chicken bone broth that I had stopped doing. And I'm like, no, I need to go back to the basics because I noticed that I'm just getting extra bloated. And understand that, you know, being bloated all the time, girls, it's not normal. Okay, it's not normal. So if you are constantly bloated, it's for sure it's something that is going on in your gut, and you got to take serious, you know, that the fiber, you're going to take serious the probiotics, but you don't want to be adding those things that are not natural. We can get the probiotics from sauerkraut, from, you know, Dr. Amy teaches on that all the time, from the cottage cheese, from the kimchi, from, you know, kefir, right? So have a little bit of those things that really is going to support, keep that tummy, you know, in a good place. Fiber from good vegetables, right? You know, every time you are eating something, make sure that you put something green on your plate. Nowadays, I don't know if you can trust that or not, but they even have the washable, you know, what is it called? Leaves, green leaves, right? Like it's already washed, you know, like I just rinse off and I throw it on the pot, you know what I mean? And I have that. So just, you got to be intentional, because if we are not, then if we just go by how you look, or, you know, I look pretty good, I lost some weight, you know, this is not going to hurt. And you just stay on that story, you know, it's not going to support you at all. Anybody has, Coach Holly, thank you so much for sharing that. Would love to open up for some Q&A. We have, you know, 12 minutes. It can be anything, doesn't need to be on this topic, anything that you have questions on, anything that you would like add to it. And then I would like to ask a final question after this. Anybody? You see how this topic is not very popular. We got a few people that dropped out of the call. It's funny, right? What is the best before? What is best before and after workout? What do you mean? To eat as pre-workout. Which one though? Like, I'm sorry. Am I missing anything? What do you, oops, sorry. What do you eat before your workout? It depends on what time I'm going to work out. So if I'm going to if I'm going to work out first thing in the morning, I just have a smoothie. I have a protein shake with some berries. I don't add any fat, so I can have, you know, that's the time that I can have the extra glucose and just go to the gym, because I'm going to use that right away. So my body's not, it's not going to be just floating around in my system. You know what I mean? I'm going to actually use the glucose for the training, right? Because the body needs that that's where the body goes for energy for the workout, right? But I don't want to overeat before I go to workout. But if I go in the morning, I'll just have a smoothie. I have blueberries and I have, you know, like a protein powder or something. If I go work out like tonight, I'm going to work out tonight. So after the call, I'll probably going to have some fruit with a little bit of nuts. And I'm not going to work out probably until 7:30. So I'm going to have some fruit with a little bit of nuts and maybe some cottage cheese. So now it's a combination of a balanced meal, right? But I like the fruit once again, because the fruits are going to give me that quick energy for the workout as well, especially right now. When I come back from the workout though, tonight, I'll probably not going to go for rice or anything because it's late. I'm going to go for veggies, protein, you know what I mean? Maybe I'll have a little piece of fruit to some berries. There is another research that shows that having blueberries after training is great because the antioxidant of the blueberries help from the inflammation that we get from the workouts. So that's another, you know, really good, you know, tip there. But if I had to go into the gym in the morning, for example, and I came back home, oh, you better know I'm going to have, you know, probably brown rice or sweet potato and my protein. I'll have some veggies in the mix. You know what I mean? If it was after lunch, I would do the same. I'll probably have, you know, again, fruits and some kind of protein. So I love fruits before and after workouts because it just gives me that quick energy. I love that. Now at night, I'm really avoiding heavy carbs. If it is really late, if I'm gonna, like for tonight, I'm gonna go to the gym at 7 because, you know, before that's packed. I'll be back home by 8:30. By the time I'm gonna eat, it's gonna be 9. And I want to go to bed by 10:30. So I definitely not gonna eat rice and potatoes. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go for zucchini, for a salad, for, you know, just veggies and some chicken or something, and then I'll give my body a break to go to sleep. Make sense? Any ideas for snacks on long car rides? I have 10 hours drive at the end of the month. You know, I loved the post that Priya made on, you know, on the Facebook. I would definitely look into that. But when it comes to driving, obviously you're gonna probably stop, right, in some places. You know, I like to have a cooler. If you're gonna go in a 10-hour drive, you're gonna have to have a cooler, girl. You don't have an option on that. So definitely have a cooler. You know, make a sandwich with a like, you know, like how can I say, oven roasted turkey with some sourdough bread, or maybe a tuna sandwich, you know what I mean, with sourdough bread. So you want to have that good protein with carbs. And then I would probably make, I don't know, I love cauliflower thins with a little bit of hummus, even though now there's this whole thing that hummus is not healthy for you. And then I like to add some edamame. So you're gonna have to have a cooler, just so you can have a few things that you can rely instead of bars and protein shake. You know, like if you want to take a protein shake, I think that it's always important. It's always going to help you. But I would definitely take a cooler with some food there for me. Cottage cheese, some fruits, a little bit of nuts, just balance the meals. So you're not going to be like, oh, you know, I'm traveling. I deserve to have, you know, the chips and the this and that. And because it's a trip, you can, but don't go with that mindset, right? Definitely have a cooler, like a tiny one. Anybody else? I eat dinner no later than 6:30 and work out at 8. I don't eat after workouts. Is that fine? No, that's not fine. After that, you want to have something, right? So I leave, like for example, for tonight, I left literally 18 grams of protein. I left 7 grams of fat, and I left I think 20 grams of carbs for when I come back from the gym. And I'm going to have that from veggies, like I said, and a little bit of chicken. You could have egg whites if you think that chicken is going to be too much. You could have, though, a protein smoothie, you know what I mean? A protein shake, maybe a whey protein with a little bit of berries. But you definitely do not want to go work out and that's it. Like, you know, your body needs that refuel to recover and for muscle growth. So you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot if you don't eat and you go to sleep without eating after a workout. Love that question. Anybody else?
There's a few questions above that you missed. I think sequencing what I start to eat, fat, protein, carbs last. I usually start with protein.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Coach Lindsay.
Well, we were just like based off of the information I just gave you, right? With the glucose spikes and that sort of thing. Typically what we say, like when you eat vegetables, they will come up as carbs, right? When you log them. But it's the fiber that really helps slow down the glucose process, right? So having your vegetables first is really going to help support that, right? And then eating your protein, healthy fats, and then the carbs, right? Just try that for a week just to see, like, watch your energy levels, watch to see if you have any cravings after that, just to see if that would even help improve that sort of aspect, right? It's just when you like carb load first, like obviously when you are like hungry, that's the first thing we go for is those carbs because we know our bodies know that it gives us energy. So that's what we crave and that's what we eat typically first when we're starving. But try and do the
Or
opposite.
protein, like she was saying. I am
Yeah.
the same way. I go straight for the protein because I want to have a little bit of chicken bone broth before I have my coffee. You know what I mean? Because I need my coffee to go do my devotional. So I have a little bit of that. And then after that, I have that. So, that's a challenge right there because I'm like, what am I going to eat at 6 o'clock in the morning? Some, leaf greens. And, that's definitely a challenge. Maybe, could be a good idea, to have, if you really have that first meal, to have a little bit of, I don't know, a whey protein or something with, spinach and make, instead of fruit, put veggies on your, leaf greens on your smoothie first thing in the morning instead of going for the fruit, or just really balance your meals. You know what I mean? That I think that for the first thing in the morning, if you are just needing, because I really recommend not drinking coffee on an empty stomach. Okay, like that's a big no-no for us. So first thing in the morning, if you don't have an option but to go for some chicken bone broth or something before your coffee, go for it. But and then for the rest of the day, really work on that. Just stop and think about when you go to restaurants and they serve 3 courses meal, what is the first course that they send? The salad, right? So I think that would be the idea, that we eat the salads and the veggies, some of the veggies first, so we can get some of the fiber in. Right? Am I missing anybody else?
Yeah, there's one more. I work out at 5 a.m. and I don't eat because I don't want to start calories. So early in the day, should I eat? And Veronica, you're just coming into the program.
Yeah.
But a lot of our veterans know this answer already. Always have something before you work out. Carbs for sure. So like Coach Patricia was saying, even a banana, like the glucose from the banana is going to help give you energy to do that workout and to give you to help build those muscles, right? And then after, that's when you're going to have your full entire breakfast, right? So yeah, it's hard to work out when you work out that early and go straight to workout, but you have to have some sort of fuel. Otherwise, your body goes into this, oh my gosh, I'm going to start saving fat for
Or it's going
energy.
to go attack your muscle, which is the last
Yeah.
thing you need, right? And I have seen that with clients that are just like, I can't, Coach Patricia, I wake up at 4 a.m. and I need to do the workout. And the ones that actually figured out a way of having something, I'm not saying you have a full-blown meal at 5 a.m. That's going to be hard, but you're going to have some kind of protein and a little bit of fruit, just something, just even if it's half, just so you can give it that energy. It's just for energy, right? We're not talking about you're going to get a HIIT workout. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about strength training, right? Because that's the kind of the training you ladies are getting from us for muscle building. So the last thing you want to do is go work out after a full night of fasting, doing strength training. Your body's going to go after your muscle for energy. Okay, so you don't want to do that. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot with that. Oh, but and then I know people that are doing intermittent fasting and they're like, okay, girl, we're not going to go into that. Okay, so Don't do it. I'm telling you, I've seen better progress when you actually eat something in the morning. All right. It's helping me a lot. I love Jaja. That's awesome. Anybody else? I made a post today. I don't know if you ladies saw, but you know, I know that nobody here is afraid anymore of carbs, I hope. Or if you are, you know, remember that carbs, you know, when we talk about, you know, when people talk about carbs, you know, oh my gosh, I eat carbs and I gain fat. If it is, you know, not the healthy carbs that we talk about, um, if you're eating healthy carbs and you are gaining, it's probably because you are dealing with some insulin resistance, right? So that's number one. That's what we're addressing here. But when I see a lot of people talking about, I eat carbs and I gain weight, well, you are eating processed carbs for sure. You know what I mean? The majority of your food's processed because the healthy carbs, there is actually even a study on that on PubMed that, you know, you want to take a look at that. You know, carbohydrates, okay, the high quality index, okay, carbohydrate quality index. When it says that the conclusion, high quality carbohydrates intake was found to be associated with lower somatic and psychological symptoms of menopause. This finding suggests that carbs quality index may be an important basis for developing an effective dietary modification for reducing menopausal symptoms, right? Like we have, you know, a client on this call, Yaya. We start feeding this girl back, right? And your symptoms start to get much better. You know what I mean? So we see that very, very often. Don't remember at our age group, girls, it's a whole different ball game. And that's the thing that a lot of people keep missing the boat. Like we don't have, our bodies need different things that it needed when we were in our 20s and 30s. And one of the things we do need in our age right now is the high, nice quality carbs. We need that. Okay, that's a must. That's important. But how you do it, when you do it, how you time it, that's also play a big part. Okay. So 6:02, I'm gonna hop off. Anybody has any final comments there? Love that, you know, you ladies showed up. And thank you, Coach Lindsay, for taking the time for really diving into this. And Coach Holly, thank you, girls, for showing up for this calls. Let's see here. Thank you. Yes, of course. We will see you in 2 weeks, I think. Oh my gosh, before you go, don't go really quick. Can you do me a favor and drop here couple of topics? Think about a couple of topics that you ladies would like to hear on this calls. I definitely want to do one about consistency and the psychology behind it, maybe some more tricks on that. But what would be a couple of things that you ladies would like for us to be, you know, bringing to these calls? If you can just think about really quick here, that would really help us. Because every week we were like, what are we going to say? What are we going to talk? Like, what's going on? And we try to go based on the weekly check-ins. And we see like what is the biggest challenge that most clients are having on the weekly check-ins. And then we try to come up with topics on that, around that. Anybody? Hormone replacement therapy options. All right. I love it. Okay. Anybody else? I actually gave Coach Holly some stuff for you. Yeah. Whole foods. Okay. What does that mean, Tanya? I think it would be help to have a mind, body, spirit trifecta and repeat them in cycles. Okay. I love that. Well, trust me, I can get really woo-woo. Okay. So I can bring it down. Okay. The spiritual. Identify what you mean by whole foods. Okay. Yeah, foods that are not right processed, but then giving examples, right, and bring like a, okay, I love that. Okay, more tips and review of the basics. Okay, I love that. Like today what Coach Lindsay was coaching girls, this is all the basics. You know what I mean? Like just remember this right here is the basics. Every time a client starts to tell us, oh my gosh, you know, I'm so craving so much sugar, oh my gosh, I have no energy, we ask, have they been eating every 3 hours with balanced meals? No. And then as soon as they get back on that, they start minimizing the cravings. What are the goals you're aiming for with our program plans? Good to have a reminder of the progress. Good to have a reminder. What are the goals you aim for with our programs? Okay, what does that mean? Your questions,
Yeah,
I'm like,
I get a little lost sometimes with, you know, eat this, don't eat that, do low glycemic, do this, take this supplement, but not that supplement. So maybe kind of how do you look at our plans and our programs? And then of course it's tailored to each person. That's a
Correct.
given, but
yeah.
I lose track of what I'm actually trying to accomplish by all the changes.
Yeah, like on your case, is a perfect example, right? So when we are doing your check-in and you are in the cut and your weight is down, but your waist is up, right? We know for a fact you are not gaining weight, you're not gaining fat. So we either you have glucose spikes, then we're gonna test your glucose. That's when we do the glucose, test for 2 days. If that's out the door, then we know it's something on your gut. Right? So then we're going to look into what supplements you're taking. We're going to look to what kind of foods you eating to address that gut, right? So that's exactly what we did, right? Okay, we how can I say, we did the glucose test. She does not have glucose spikes. Okay, so that's not the case. So that means you're not gaining fat. Great. So then this is a gut issue, right? So, oh, she's taking probiotics. Oh, she's taking, fermented, not fermented, she's taking supplements for fiber. Oh, she's not eating that. Oh, okay. So let's address that too, right? Because it's okay for you to take probiotics. It's okay for you to take, how can I say, fiber, but it's better if you do it from whole foods, right? From foods that, it's coming natural, you know what I mean? Opposed to supplementing that. You see what I'm saying? And then on top of that, we are working on make sure that we are managing that stress because of cortisol, right? Like for me, that's really what gets me. Cortisol, my belly pops up right away. You know what I mean? It's crazy to see. Just by moving this weekend, yesterday I looked like I was 3 months pregnant, and it was like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I was like, holy cow. I know it was stress. Right? So when we are doing your check-ins and we are looking at how your body is responding to what we are doing, that's when we're like, okay, so this is probably happening, or this is probably happening. And now that's when we bring to the functional team and we ask, okay, what do you guys recommend here? Because this is happening this way. And then, we put together the case, and then they give us the best advice and we test it out. Everything is a puzzle and it's a test, unfortunately, right? So we gotta, just like with hormone therapy, right? A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, so minimize this, minimize that. So the same thing goes with macros, the same thing goes, and we keep trying to crack that code, crack that code, crack that code. And then your body starts to respond. It's respond a little bit, it gets stuck. It responds a little bit and then it gets stuck and it responds. But every time that it responds, you lose a little bit, you improve a little bit, and then you get stuck again. And that's all that's the main, I think that's the main thing you ladies are getting from us, okay, when it comes to this body composition, is how we get that inch by inch out, how we can break through the plateau. Because that's the biggest complaint that we see across the board on my DMs everywhere when I talk to women over 40, is the fact that they are just stuck. No matter what the heck they try, they're stuck, right? And the only way to get unstuck is by changing diet styles. We do carb cycle, carb pulse, we do how can I say, we go back to the single, like, oh my God, let's try a couple of days of intermediate fasting. Like, we are just creating diet variations and looking at blood tests and looking if anything changed in the process, how you were sleeping. There is the whole persona, right, in order for us to break through that plateau, because we're going to keep plateauing. Unfortunately, that's the biggest challenge that we face as a woman over 40, is the plateaus, okay? And how effective we are in figuring it out, strategies to break the plateau. And a lot of times we break the plateau, like I said, 1 week, 2 weeks, and then your body again is like, oh shit, okay, now what? right? Now what we're gonna do is constantly keeping us on our toes to break the plateau. And we are constantly trying to figure out ways to break plateau. So that's what we live by in this program. Like, she plateaued again. Oh my God. You see what I'm saying? And that's pretty much it. If we were in the 20s and 30s, we don't have that problem, you know, but right now this is it. All right. But I love those ideas. You got some ideas there, Coach Lindsay? Wrote it down?
Sorry, my daughter burst through the door at the same time. I don't know, I think, yeah, we're good. I wrote those down. So
Okay.
we're good.
I love it. Okay. All right, girls, we will come back in 2 weeks. Talk soon. Bye.